My sister took a hammer to my 6-year-old daughter's brand new bike, smashing it right in front of her. Afterward, she had the nerve to say, "That should teach her a lesson."
And my mom? She didn't gasp, didn't step in.
She just shook her head and said, "You shouldn't have bought it for her in the first place."
I didn't scream or break down.
I simply smiled and delivered one short sentence, and whatever I said drained the color from both their faces. But before I share that line with you, let me pause, because otherwise you might think I'm exaggerating. I wish I were. But no, this really happened. Picture it, a bright Saturday afternoon, one of those rare weekends when the laundry's folded, the dishwasher's silent, and life almost feels manageable. My daughter, Chloe, was bouncing with excitement, practically glowing as she raced around the driveway. She wanted everyone to see her new bike, sleek, shiny, perfect. Our guests that day? My mom and my younger sister, Brittany.
Because of course, why not ruin a peaceful Saturday with family drama? The moment Chloe spotted them, she nearly squealed, "Did you see my new bike?"
Her joy bubbled over in her little voice. She tugged them by the hands and dragged them outside, like she was about to unveil buried treasure.
And that's when I caught it.
Brittany's expression shifted, her smile stiffened, her jaw tightened.
You know that look when someone's chewing on something awful but pretending it tastes fine? That was the face staring back at me. I knew that look too well. I grew up with it. Still, I never imagined what she'd do next. Brittany didn't say a word at first.
She just glared at the bike like it had personally wronged her. Meanwhile, Chloe kept pointing out the little details she loved, the colorful streamers, the way the paint sparkled in the sunlight. Then Brittany's voice cut through the air, calm and almost cold. "Let me show you what I think of this." Before I could even process her words, she spun around, marched into my house, and reappeared holding a hammer.
A hammer. And in that instant, my brain scrambled.
I told myself, no, she's not going to, she wouldn't. But she did. She raised that hammer high and brought it crashing down on the frame with one brutal strike. The noise, it was like metal screaming. Chloe gasped, her tiny hands flying to her mouth.
That image is burned into me forever. Then came another blow. Crunch. Paint cracked. Another swing. The wheel bent, the frame warped. I stood frozen, rooted to the spot, my body refusing to move even as my mind fired off alarms, all blaring at once. And do you know what Brittany said? She didn't scream, didn't rant. She simply locked eyes with my little girl and muttered, "That should be a lesson for her." A lesson. As if destroying a child's joy with a hammer was some sort of life wisdom. Chloe didn't cry right away. She just stared at the wreck of her bike, her lips quivering, her small shoulders trembling. Me? I felt a cold wave roll over me. Not anger yet. Just pure shock. And then my mother decided to chime in. You'd think a grandmother would rush to comfort her granddaughter or maybe tell her other daughter to stop acting like a maniac in the driveway. But not my mom. She folded her arms, shook her head, and muttered, "You shouldn't have bought it for her." Like I was the problem here. I almost laughed. Imagine standing there, watching your sister smash your 6-year-old's bike to pieces, and somehow you're the one blamed. But I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't lunge for the hammer. No. I stood there smiling, because sometimes silence is the sharpest blade you've got. Brittany finally dropped the hammer onto the pavement with a loud clang, looking satisfied with herself. My mom even nodded, as if her daughter had made some kind of valid point. And me? I just smiled and said one single sentence. Whatever reaction they were expecting from me, it wasn't that. Their faces went pale. I'll tell you what I said soon, but not yet. Because the truth is, that driveway moment my daughter's bike smashed into scrap, my sister smug, my mother self-righteous, didn't just come out of nowhere. It was the result of years of build-up. Brittany, my little sister, is 2 years younger than me. From the day she was born, she came into this world screaming, and honestly, I don't think she ever stopped. Most kids throw tantrums, and parents teach them boundaries. But in our family? Every time Brittany screamed, I was the one punished. She wanted a toy she didn't get? Why didn't you give her yours, Lauren? She lost a game? Somehow, that was on me too. Why couldn't you just let her win? You know how sensitive she is. She only broke that because you upset her. That was the kind of talk I grew up hearing. By the time I was 10 years old, I could have taught a masterclass in walking on eggshells. My mom's favorite warning was always the same, don't upset your sister. Which was funny, because Brittany could find a reason to be upset about just about anything. One memory sticks out crystal clear. I had scraped together my allowance to buy her a little piece of jewelry. Nothing expensive, just something sweet and simple. I thought I was doing the right thing, being a thoughtful big sister. She tore open the package, saw it wasn't pink but blue, shrieked like I had handed her roadkill, and snapped the chain in half right in front of me. And my mom? She didn't scold her. She turned to me and said, "You know she wanted pink. Why would you get blue?"
That, right there, summed up my whole childhood. Brittany destroyed things, and somehow I was always blamed. Fast forward a couple decades, and guess what? Nothing had really changed. I worked my tail off, studied law, spent endless nights cramming, and eventually carved out a steady career. It paid off. These days, I make more than the rest of my family combined, and I live comfortably. And because of that, I often stepped in to help. I covered bills, groceries, medicine, you name it. But here's the problem with people who already resent you: no matter how much you give, it's never enough. The second I said no to anything extra, suddenly I was selfish, stingy, arrogant. In their eyes, if I wasn't bankrolling every single whim, I was the villain. So when I tell you that the whole bike incident didn't just appear out of nowhere, this is what I mean. It all really started one afternoon when Chloe and my niece Madison, Brittany's daughter, who's about the same age as Chloe, were outside playing. Madison was riding her bike, the one she'd been using for a while, when suddenly something gave out. I didn't see exactly what broke, but I sure heard the wail. Chloe, bless her heart, rushed over to help. She's 6, so her idea of fixing things is poking at them and saying, "I can do it." But that bike was already toast. Of course, the second Brittany saw it, she pointed straight at Chloe and yelled that she had broken it like my little girl had gone at it with a sledgehammer. And right on cue, my mother backed her up. "Lauren, you need to take responsibility. Chloe has to learn her actions have consequences." I didn't argue. Instead, I calmly said we'd take the bike home so my husband, Ethan, could look it over. Sometimes you pick your battles, and sometimes you just wait for proof. That evening, Ethan wheeled it into the garage. He's good with his hands, patient, steady, always thorough. He flipped the bike over and examined the chain, frame, and pedals. After 10 minutes, he looked up and said, "This wasn't Chloe. This is a defect." He pointed out the weak spot, explaining how it could have failed on anyone. And he was right. It was dangerous. If Madison had been riding downhill or crossing a street when that part snapped, well, I don't even want to finish that thought. So no, my daughter hadn't ruined the bike. The bike had ruined itself. And that's when the anger started to build in me. I had fought my way through law school, I knew exactly how to handle people trying to dodge responsibility. I picked up the phone and called the manufacturer. Laid it out in detail: a child's bike broke because of a defect, unsafe and unacceptable. And yes, I dropped words like liability and injury. Amazing how quickly people sit up and listen when you do that. By the next morning, I had an email sitting in my inbox. They weren't just offering to replace the bike. See, this is where persistence, and maybe sounding a little intimidating, really pays off. I pushed harder. I argued that a simple replacement wasn't enough. Madison deserved better, especially considering the risk. Eventually, they agreed to upgrade it to the exact model Madison had been begging for, the dream bike she'd been raving about nonstop. When that email came through, I smiled. Finally, justice. Madison would get the bike she wanted, and Chloe's name would be cleared. That whole "she broke it" nonsense would collapse once the truth came out. I decided not to announce anything right away. I wanted it to be a surprise. I pictured Madison's face lighting up when she saw her dream bike waiting for her. And Brittany, well, she'd have to realize her daughter had something wonderful thanks to me, not in spite of me. But here's the thing. Some people don't want things fixed. They want them broken. In Brittany's twisted mind, I had bought Chloe a shiny new bike while her kid had none. She convinced herself Chloe had destroyed Madison's old one. And now I had supposedly gone and bought Chloe the very model Madison had been wishing for, just to rub it in her face. To her, it wasn't kindness. It was humiliation dressed up with sparkly streamers. And that lie, that poison thought, was what fueled her hand as she picked up the hammer. After the blows landed, I let the silence stretch until even the birds seemed uneasy. The broken frame ticked softly as it settled. My mom's lips pressed into a thin, approving line, like discipline had just been served and dessert was next. But I wasn't serving them dessert. "I'll say this once," I told them, my voice lower and steadier than I thought possible. "That bike wasn't for Chloe." The words hung there. 2 beats of silence. Their eyes darted like they were searching for a trick. "It was for Madison." Brittany blinked first. "No, it wasn't," she snapped, quick and defensive, like a sneeze she couldn't hold back. "Yes, it was," I replied calmly. "I fought the manufacturer over the defective one. I got the upgrade, the very one Madison's been begging for months." My mother clicked her tongue, gearing up for her usual lecture. "Don't be dramatic, Lauren." I looked down at the twisted frame on the ground. "I'm not the one who brought a hammer to a children's bike." Brittany's face flushed blotchy red. "You're lying. You always lie when you get caught." "About what?" I asked Brittany, still smiling. "The emails? The paperwork? Or maybe the words stamped across my screen: liability, child safety?"
Would you like me to pull them up for you, or should I just read them aloud right here in the front yard? That hit her like a punch. I saw it register. The dawning, the recoil, that frantic need to rearrange reality. Her eyes flicked from the bike to Chloe, then back to me. You really expect me to believe you'd do something like that for my kid? She sneered. No, I said evenly. I expect you to regret what you just did. Chloe's tiny hand slid against the back of my leg, warm, steady, grounding me. I covered it with mine without looking down. I didn't want her to see my eyes yet. Not when they burned like this. My mom moved closer, as if her physical presence could rewrite the truth. Lauren, don't humiliate your sister. This can still be fixed. File an insurance claim, call it a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I shot back. So when a grown woman smashes a 6-year-old's joy into metal scraps, we file that under a teachable moment? Brittany folded her arms so tightly her knuckles went white. It was just a moment, she sniffed. No, I said. Crying in the kitchen is a moment. What you did was demolition. Watch your tone, my mother warned, as though tone was the real crime here. I let silence hang again, heavy enough to set a glass on. Then I said it, leave. Brittany barked out a laugh, sharp and ugly. Leave what? My house, I answered. And after that? My life. They stared at me like I had announced I was moving to Mars. My mom clutched invisible pearls. Don't be ridiculous. We're family. That word, I told her, doesn't mean what you think it means. Brittany's eyes narrowed. You don't mean it. I do, I said, steady as stone. She stepped toward Chloe. Instinct kicked in, I shifted, sliding my hand back to guide my daughter behind me. That's when Ethan finally moved. He had been silent, still, the kind of quiet that fills a room and makes you notice the shape of it. He stepped onto the porch, wiped his palms on his jeans, and came to stand near me. His voice was soft, but final. Time to go. Ethan, my mom tried, talk some sense into your wife. I am, he said simply. And that was it, a door closing without a slam. Brittany glanced past us down the hallway, like she was hoping the right words were still hanging on a coat hook somewhere. You can't do this, she said desperately. We're family. We help each other. You brought a hammer to my child's happiness, I said flatly. Help has left the building. For a flicker of a second, her face changed. Fear? Realization? I couldn't tell. But then she turned frantic. We can fix it. We'll say it was an accident. Nobody has to know. Chloe knows, I told her. I know. And you know. Plus, I'm pretty sure the neighbors with windows know too. My mom went for the courtroom compromise. We'll talk tomorrow when you've calmed down. I almost laughed. I am calm, I said. And that's what scares you. Ethan opened the gate. Please leave, I added. Nothing more. Sometimes fewer words cut sharper. They hesitated, faces flickering between old habits of bulldozing and the new reality that bulldozers don't run without keys. And I wasn't handing them over anymore. Brittany left first, her shoulders stiff, her steps quick. My mom lingered at the threshold, like she could still rewrite everything with one last scolding. I just looked at her until she stepped outside. Ethan shut the door. Not a slam, just a seal. The silence inside wasn't empty. It had a shape, a weight, even a temperature. I heard Chloe's small breaths, felt the tremor easing in her hand. We stood still, letting the storm roll off the roof. Then Chloe's paper-thin voice cut the quiet. Mom? Did I do something wrong? I crouched until we were eye level. No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong. Her chin trembled. Auntie was mad. She was, I said gently. But people can be mad and still be wrong. She nodded like she understood, which hurt more than watching the bike get crushed. Do we still get ice cream? She asked, like dessert might have been revoked because we'd angered the family gods. Definitely, I said. 2 scoops. 3 if you tell Dad the flavors. Her smile flickered like a ghost. Chocolate. And sprinkles. Scientifically optimal choice, Ethan teased from behind her, trying to lighten the air. And the truth was, the air in the house had changed. It wasn't heavy anymore. It felt clean. Clear. For once, the silence didn't feel like weakness. It felt like a boundary. We stepped back inside. While Ethan distracted Chloe with ice cream and sprinkles, I picked up my phone. My hands didn't shake, not anymore. I opened the accounts I had been paying into. Utilities. Groceries. Streaming. One by one, I pulled my cards. Click. Done. No announcement. No dramatic speech. It wasn't vengeance, it was survival. It didn't take long. By the time I was rinsing out bowls and Chloe was crunching sprinkles between her teeth, my phone lit up. Not just messages this time, calls. Mom. Brittany. Mom again. I let them ring out. I glanced at one preview text, and it told me enough. We just got a notice. Your card's been removed from the account. Why would you do that? Add it back. They knew. Another came seconds later. What game are you playing? This is petty. Put the card back now. I stared at the screen, reading their urgency. Funny, isn't it? How fast people switch from righteous to desperate once the faucet stops running. Ethan glanced at me. You don't have to answer, he said softly. I already know. I flipped my phone face down on the counter, but the buzzing kept going, call after call, text after text, like they thought sheer persistence could hammer their way back into my life. Then one text came through so dripping with venom I had to read it twice. You're going to regret this. Family is family. You can't just cut us out. That's when I smiled, because for the first time it hit me, they were wrong. I could. And I already had. By the next morning, the call slowed, but the texts didn't. And when the buzzing finally stopped, I should have known it wasn't peace. It was plotting. See, if there's one thing my family excels at, it's rewriting history. The first sign came from a cousin I hadn't heard from in 6 months. Hey, sorry about the drama. Hope you and Chloe are doing okay. Drama. I blinked. To me, smashing a child's bike with a hammer was closer to felony than drama. Then came the screenshots. My mother and Brittany had wasted no time spinning their version of events through the extended family chat, the same one still clinging to old reunion photos from 2015. In their story, they were the victims, and I was the villain. According to them, Chloe had destroyed Madison's bike. I had refused to help. And worst of all, my supposed act of cruelty, I had cut them off financially out of spite. No mention of the hammer. No mention of the driveway. No mention of my mother nodding approvingly while Brittany smashed joy out of a 6-year-old. It was such a warped story it deserved a Carnival Funhouse mirror. At first, I wanted to ignore it. I really did. But then I saw relatives replying with thumbs up emojis, oh no, poor Madison, and that's so cruel of Lauren. That's when something inside me snapped. Here's the truth, people can think I'm cold, or say I'm difficult, I don't care. But painting my daughter as some spoiled brat who was rewarded after wrecking another kid's bike? That was a line I wasn't letting them cross. So I didn't. I opened the security app. You know those porch cameras you buy to keep an eye out for package thieves? Turns out they also catch family meltdowns. And there it was in high definition. Brittany walking out with the hammer. Chloe's little gasp. The sound of metal bending, paint cracking. My mother's voice in the background, blaming me. The whole ugly symphony captured in one clip. I trimmed nothing. Posted it in the family group chat with just one line, for the record, that bike was meant for Madison. Brittany destroyed it herself. That's why Madison doesn't have a bike anymore. I put my phone down. I didn't have to wait long. The group chat exploded. Aunts gasping in all caps. Cousins spamming WTF like they'd discovered a new keyboard shortcut. People who'd quietly swallowed the rewritten story suddenly had to face the truth. And the truth, unfortunately for Brittany, was wearing sweatpants and swinging a hammer. I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I felt drained. Because here's the thing, people don't actually want the truth. They just want the loudest side. Within an hour, my mom called. I almost didn't answer. But some part of me wanted to hear what excuse she'd cooked up. She didn't disappoint. Yes, maybe your sister overreacted, she admitted. But how could you post that video? You ruined her reputation. I nearly laughed. Mom, she ruined herself. All I did was press play. You don't humiliate your family, she snapped. Funny, I said. That's exactly what Brittany did to a 6-year-old with a hammer. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Then she hung up. But the fallout wasn't over. Because that video didn't stay tucked in our family chat. It spread. Friends, neighbors, someone even slapped it on Facebook with the caption, "Who does this?" And Brittany's husband? Even he saw it. We'd never exactly gotten along, he always carried himself like the most exhausted man alive, but even he couldn't watch that footage and shrug. He did something I never expected, he called me. Is it real? He asked. His voice was flat, but there was something trembling under it. Yes, I said. It's real. He exhaled like a balloon deflating. Thank you, he muttered, and hung up. Days later, I learned he'd filed for divorce and custody of Madison. And for the first time in all of this, I felt something close to relief. Someone else had finally said out loud what I'd been screaming inside, this is not okay. The calls from my mom and Brittany kept coming, but the tone shifted. No more righteous fury. Just desperation. You didn't have to post it. You're tearing the family apart. Think of your niece. As if I hadn't been thinking of Madison the entire time. I stopped responding. Instead, that night I sat at the edge of Chloe's bed, watching her sleep, and let myself feel something I hadn't in years. Not anger. Not exhaustion.
But clarity. Because here's what my family never understood. Being related doesn't give you a free pass. You can't smash, lie, and demand loyalty while hiding behind the word family. Family is supposed to mean safety, love, protection. If it doesn't, then maybe family is just another word people use to dodge consequences. That night, I drew the line. Some people might think I went too far. Others will say I didn't go far enough. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. And hey, don't forget to subscribe.